am Heidi Roddenberry. I am thrilled to be here with all of you and also Stacey. We are both here as technology enthusiasts. We have different lenses on this, being that I'm a philanthropist. So I sit here today as the co-founder of the Roddenberry Foundation and the board chair. We have taken the inspiration from Star Trek as what we call the Roddenberry philosophy. We believe in an optimistic future and one where we can do more together. And we look around the world trying to figure out how to infuse capital in catalytic systems change. And this is where I believe Stacey and I are very aligned, yet Stacey is the professional in the tech world. Introduce yourself. Let us know more about you, Stacey.
Thank you for your optimism on that. I love being here with Heidi. I think one of the main things in tech right now is we're all seeing these overly pessimistic views of what technology in the future of technology will be, and we miss the world of Star Trek where it was optimistic. It was a equitable future. Technology was around us, and we all believed from that in how technology can inspire. And so I'm Stacey Shulman. I run the people businesses at Intel: health, life sciences, education, and all of these areas around people. And what my group does is we look at how do we take emerging technologies and integrate them into these areas where people are so that we can hopefully influence the use of that in a positive and equitable way. And so I'm happy to be here today, everyone.
And as a philanthropist, we're also always looking at, like I said, catalytic ways. So I love how Stacey comes in with their team to empower the use of technology, right? That's why we're all here. How can technology empower people? And what I'm excited to be here is to presence this optimistic future, to remember that this is a tool. And there's so many important aspects of how to have a responsible development and deployment of technology and tools. And I think, Stacey, in your world, you're running teams, but also deploying. And what are some important considerations as you're coming into new places with that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I always talk to companies about is a couple things. One is don't have an AI strategy or program, have a business improvement program and leverage modern tools in implementing that business improvement program. The other advice that I give people is think about AI as, think about distributed work, the world of distributed work, and get more distributed in your work, and leverage AI agents as part of your team. They should be collaborators. Your AI agent should be collaborating with your team. It should be part of your team. You should have a legal AI agent. You should have a Elon Musk-inspired AI agent, and a lot of reasons for that, for just testing the boundaries on everything. You should have a Steve Jobs AI agent. You should have AI agents that come in as 10-year-olds. You should have AI agents that think through the problem from different cultural aspects. You should bring in the voice of diversity in addition to your diverse workforce that you should already have. And so as you start thinking about how to integrate AI, it should be thought of, in my opinion, as employees. These things need to be trained like an employee does. They need to be scored like an employee. You need to learn how to work with them like new employees and new interns. And so as we think about that, we also believe it's inherently human to do it that way. And yes, we don't want a company of all AI agents, but when you integrate those things, really much like how Star Trek did, and Heidi is great at reminding me of that, is that's how we believe the world should be.
Yes. Also, one of the things that I think is important to really consider, especially while we're all here with this imagining for a new world, is the importance of data privacy and protection and how these technologies are being developed. I'm repping my Mental Health Matters shirt because of where we are in the world today and how emotional intelligence and heart space are so vital. And I look at the possibility of what these AI agents or these different tools can do to help with your learning what are called Tier 1 mental health tools. So these are the tools of self-awareness, of emotional regulation, of healthy relating. We're sorely missing this in our society, and we rely on tidbits of help around the interwebs. Or if you can access therapy, that's called a Tier 3 solution, but that's not really sustainable. It's not an equitable or accessible model. So I love what technology can offer for an inquiry model, right? But I'm very concerned about sharing my deepest wounds and concerns when I'm not sure what's happening to that database. So I'd love to hear, Stacey, your thoughts, because I'm not sure that that's the right way, because if there's a black box algorithm that's holding our hearts, that doesn't feel like an appropriate monetized method.
Yeah, I'll say this might be controversial. I'm against black box algorithms in general. I think that and I'm against it for a number of reasons. I think it's bad for your business if you're building those. And I see a lot of founders who believe, I can't have people copying my algorithm. They can copy your algorithm. It's not that hard. But the black box part of it is we have to put more time into this. We have to put more time into explainable AI and understanding like what it's doing and how it's making its decisions. And it's not just because of goodness. I mean, that is a good after effect, but also just it's good business. If you can't tell somebody why your AI made a decision, it's really hard to tell them the efficacy of your AI, especially in areas that involve humans. Because, look, as humans even, if you ask me 2 times about, remembering something, I'm probably going to remember it different each time because that's how we work. AI is also going to do that. The difference is I can explain why the context changed. AI cannot tell you why the context changed. And so we need AI to be better. So to do that, you have to think about no black boxes, transparency, openness, and explainability, and we need to invest more time into doing those things, and then making it safer for things like mental health. Because if you can't explain it, especially in the mental health space, if it's not effective in mental health space, it's going to be, negative. If it's not effective in the health space, there's still a doctor to check on that. But as you're interacting with somebody and AI starts interacting with humans who are going through a challenging time, if it's wrong, it could really take somebody down a wrong path. And so that explainability, that the efficacy of it is critical for that. I believe that it's possible. I just think it has to be invested in more.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that because you represent deep tech, so I'm glad that there is a hope. I'm wondering, have you explored, I mean, I know it's a bit outside but like, are there clever ways on monetizing, I don't want to say well-being, because that sounds like a wild statement, but there's clever ways on how to protect data, right? But still have you seen any new models out there of figuring out monetization streams that wouldn't be putting people's data at risk?
I think the days of data monetization hopefully are coming to an end because most of the data monetization has been primarily for advertising. I don't know that I want to be advertised to if I'm sharing my deepest secrets to an AI agent. Probably not. And so I think that the way to monetize this stuff now is through services. So if you are leveraging AI for wellness, you should be offering a service, and your monetization should be through the services of wellness, not through the data you're collecting about your patients. And the people who are leveraging that information. So I think we have to think about this different. And I think it's hard in Silicon Valley, because Silicon Valley is hardwired for how are you monetizing your data. Like, that's the first question as a founder, as a startup, is like, how are you going to monetize your data? And somehow, if you don't have a good answer to that, they're giving you side eye about, whether you know how to run a business. And I think that we have to pivot that conversation into how are you going to monetize the service? How are you going, if you're going to impact people, like, how are you monetizing that impact in ways that do not involve what I think is an easy path of just selling them out and selling the data? So, that might be a different, perspective than half the valley, but I think we have to get there.
Right. Or what about regulation or ethics standards? Do we?
I don't think we have 20 years to regulate this, right? I just don't know that we're in it's moving so fast. The doubling rate of AI is every 6 months. So I'm from Intel, Moore's Law is 2 years. 2 years, 18 months to 2 years. So the doubling rate of compute every 2 years, which is really fast. The doubling rate of AI is 6 months. So AI is improving every 6 months, at double the rate, exponentially. And Nicole talked about it earlier, where the improvements in that are happening faster than our own imagination can keep up. I don't know if regulatory can keep up with it.
Yeah,
that's the only,
that's
so I'm not anti-regulatory, I'm in the health space, but I don't think we can move fast enough.
I don't know if Dakai's in the audience, but he's got a fantastic way that he frames the AIs. He calls them feral children. And we need to parent them. We're missing parenting. So that might be something to look into, figuring out how can we be better parents.
Yeah, we're parenting them through what they see on Twitter right now. And if you're a parent in the room and you let your children, get all their education through Twitter, you're probably making a mistake. I'll go out on a limb on that one.
We need a time check from the stage team, because we're kind of, yep. The other thing we were going to talk about going into areas like the Global South, an interesting thing as a philanthropist and this technologist, thank you, is the consideration of what the space that you're coming into and how important it is to consider cultural context. And I think you've done an incredible job coming into new places. Do you want to go into that?
Sure. So I think we have to be hyper aware of not inadvertently becoming technological colonizers, in that, we see a technology that we believe is so good for us, it has to be good for you. And irrespective of your customs and values and that are different than mine, we have to be aware as a technical community that colonization can also completely erase complete cultures. And we have to be aware of that. AI needs to be more mindful this time. As we're evangelical about the benefits of this technology, we have to be careful when we go into communities and how we implement that. My team has made mistakes at this, in where we went into communities assuming what the problem was, and we assumed wrong. As you do when you're sitting, 1,000 miles away without understanding the cultural significance of why somebody was doing something. And so we went in and made mistakes. We learned really quick that we have to slow down, get ourselves embedded into the community, work with the community, and understanding, and ask the question of, what do you need? What are the things that are important to you? If you're going to be educating your children, what are the things you want to make sure is part of that education program? without our assumptions. We thought, okay, we're going to bring in Khan Academy and that just solves it all. That does not solve it all for a lot of places in the world. Their cultural, the way they teach things, the way they teach through storytelling in a lot of cultures needs to be integrated into how this was done. So we've made a lot of mistakes there, that I can own up to personally.
Well, there are plenty in philanthropy with this concept of knowing better than your constituent base. So that's something I guess that we're offering to always be considering. Like you might have your target audience, but have you asked them how they use it, what they use it for, and then a consideration about cultural context when you're there. I guess as we conclude, I'd love to bring it back to this idea of science fiction as inspiration. For all the creatives out there, I feel like I have a friend who used an AI tool to create an entire world in a comic book, like graphic novel form. And what was really interesting is it was based off of an Indonesian folkloric story. So it's almost like a Wakanda in Indo. That was an AI assisted tool. So he's crafting this whole thing. But also being the Star Trek family here, I encourage you to really to keep dreaming, to remember that the imagination is the source of innovation. And it's wild to me that Star Trek is still one of the few utopian views of the future. We have many, many dystopian views of the future, and I feel like we're not dreaming our way to a new world. We're sort of like careening into a dark mirror. So let's get back to dreaming. Let's find that inspiration and thank you.
I would like Heidi to run for president now. I thank you, and thank you for the work that you guys do in your foundation and keeping us positive and optimism, and optimists in the future. I'm also I believe in an optimistic future. I believe in an abundant future. I believe in the spirit of abundance versus scarcity. I think it drives better behavior for us as humans. I think that AI can bring abundance. I think that we talk a lot about scarcity and what it'll do in a scarce environment. It's a responsible conversation to have. We need to have that conversation. But we also need to balance that conversation with positivity and more utopian kind of concepts. And how do we look at it in a way that's inspired in a positive way? So hopefully, we will see more things like the Star Treks, and we'll have something that comes out that is as inspirational as that stands the test of time, the way that your family has done. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, keep dreaming, everybody.